All right. Hey guys, welcome. You should be able to hear me. Let me know in the chat if you're able to hear me. It's a quick adjustment I'm going to make here on my side. Apparently there's a new feature here for my moderators. So Kylie in the vent, I've just made a quick update to the way you're able to moderate. You guys are now something called managing moderators. And apparently that also allows you guys to slow down the chat, make it subscribers only. Like there's a lot of, I don't know, new things you can do. We're just going to try it out, see how it goes. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you all for being here. It is so much fun to be able to do this with you. I'm excited about today, and I'm really grateful that you all thought this was important and you guys wanted to be here with me. For yourselves, we are going to talk about manifestation and astrology, and I am pumped for it. Pumped. So very cool. I'm hoping you guys are also pumped for it. Thank you. Who farted? Your screen name is hilarious. I'm glad you're here and you gave me the first laugh of the day. So welcome everybody. Welcome Allison. Welcome Hope Glitterati. All of my mods, welcome. And everyone who's not a mod, but who's decided to take some time to have some fun with me today. I'm glad that you guys are here. We're going to give this a couple seconds more, let some more people get into the room. And then we're going to go ahead and dive in. I think that this is going to be a good time. What are you guys looking forward to learning about today? What are you guys looking forward to hearing me talk about most? Go ahead and type it in the chat for me, what you're looking forward to hearing about most. Hey, Diva. Love the incognito who farted. Hey, Denise. Hey, Nicole Paisley. Welcome. Start to see you guys all fill in here. Let me know in the chat what you're most looking forward to experiencing and learning about today. Malene says intention setting. Ross 717 is new. Welcome. Heather says all of it. Hey, Ariana. Third Eye, welcome. Cool. Very, very cool. Princess, she's ready to talk about the astrology of manifestation. Right on. Very cool. Love it. It's been a minute since I've done a live. So Elisa wants to know about personal blocks to manifesting. I am going to get into some of that. I don't think I said I was going to talk about blocks, but I am going to get into some of that before we close out. Empress Oracle of Light. Hey. Ariana says, can you discuss personal blocks to manifestation, overcoming manifestation blocks and overthinking? Yes, Ariana, we're going to talk about some of that today. It's a really great question. I am going to take questions at the end. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'm actually looking at all of this on my desktop, but I feel like I need to see the chat on YouTube because it's going so fast, or on my mobile device. So let me just jump in there. My mobile device. There we go. Now I can see you guys better. Allison says, how to align my personal chart with manifestation. You can and you will. And that is what we're going to talk about. Denise wants to know about my natal chart placements. They're very close to the planet placement currently, Jupiter and Taurus, 10th house. Very nice. Mylan shares, I'm interested in learning about the manifesting release of old patterns in a relationship into leveled up options to choose action and response. Yes. Flower wants to know about blocks. Yes. Focus, focus, focus. Love that screen name. Thank you for coming live. Excited to understand how my astro chart relates to manifesting. Right on. Magic Abundance Manifestation Powers by Music Band-Aid. Thank you. Let's learn the blueprint. That's right. I missed being live with you guys to the events. Ooh, Malene says difference between thinking and receiving thought. Interesting. Viv says, will you be reading anyone's chart? I did, Viv, bring a couple of charts for examples today. I won't be taking anyone from the live audience. I'm going to give you guys some examples of people that you all know, you've all heard of, so you can understand how precisely accurate this thing is. Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Anka. Yeah, Hufarda wants to tap into potential and plan. That's very good. Alex is running. Enjoy your run. Stay safe. Taria says manifesting all year round. What up, Georgia? Love it. All of this is good stuff, you guys. We're going to get into all of this. So good. You guys have such great questions. So let's go on and get into today's content. Just hearing you guys' questions and knowing what I've planned for today, it is like I'm now getting even more excited. I was already excited, but I'm getting more excited about this. So, thanks for sharing everything you guys are looking forward to learning. Much of that is covered. I'm also curious as we're having more people dive in and jump into the room. How are you guys doing with this eclipse season energy? Because the vibe between the beginning of April and the beginning of May is definitely a different vibe. So I'm curious, A, are you feeling it? B, what's the difference are you feeling? And C, are you getting good revelation about what you don't want to experience or about the old that you've outgrown? Because this is the jump off point for our conversation today. Are you between April and now? It's been different. It's new now. It's a different energy now. It's going to continue into this newer energy as we get to the close of May. But I'm curious, are you starting to see, are you getting that mirror back about the things that you've outgrown, the things you don't want to experience? Are those starting to present to you? The eclipses and the Mercury retrograde were supposed to bring these things up. They were supposed to come up and out. They were supposed to be clear at this time. They were no longer supposed to be unconscious to you. And so if you're seeing it, if you're experiencing it, and frankly, if you're frustrated by it, you are right in the right place. If it's coming up so it can come out. And it has a lot of purpose. Yeah, Alash Studio says the clearing of redundant energy. Yes, that's exactly it. That's what it's beautiful. That's right. Very good. I was definitely better in April and Aries season. I had more energy, was moving big time, and things were falling into place. Now it's crappy and the exact opposite. Very good. Hope, love, and sunshine. That's exactly where you're supposed to be. That's where all of us are supposed to be. Everything in our world that is a manifestation of what we're experiencing is a hologram of what's inside of us. So things were falling into place, January through April. And then now it just seems like almost maybe a 180 and, worst case scenario, or just like block upon block, like hurdle over hurdle. In other scenarios, that's the way it's supposed to be right now. Because right now, what we're all supposed to be getting a look at is what is still inside of us that's fostering our own blockages to the new. So all of that stuff is going to come out like a hologram from what's within. You're going to see the new and you're going to see, oh, that's inside of me? Okay. I didn't realize I still had that going on. I thought I cleaned that up. Well, all right. Maybe your girl has more work to do. And even I'm going through that. Even I'm seeing my new unfold right in front of my eyes, and my relationships with my family, with my loved ones. And it's all right there. Like I can touch it, see it, taste it. It's so real. And at the same time, internally, here comes some old thoughts, here comes some old insecurity playing itself out as a behavior in the people around me or as a behavior in myself. And that's what's letting us know, oh, that season is over, but I've held on to it. Time to weed the garden. Okay. So I liken the flow of the first 4 months of the year as a season of planting seeds that we want. That was the fun part up through April, imagining and experiencing what it's going to be like to have a garden full of tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, all the good stuff and more. Going to the store, picking up the seeds, knowing our garden's going to be rich and full. That part's a lot of fun. Cherry picking from, the grocery store or the menu of the universe is always a great time. Now that we're in May, the work begins. Now we got to go home and we got to take out our tools, and we need to kind of get the garden ready for like really the work of making sure that those seeds come to harvest. So I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, but before I go further, I want to make sure you have what you need to get the most from this live special event. So number one, you're going to need a notebook and a pen and some kind of way to take notes, because the information I'm going to share with you is going to go fast. And you want to make sure you're ready to write down the part that's personal for you. Remember, I said we'd look at personal manifestation techniques today? Today, I'm going to have a lot of information for everyone so that you're catching the part that you personally can use. I need you to get something to write with right now, okay? Because it's going to go fast. The second thing that you're going to need is a copy of your natal chart or your birth chart. Now, again, we're working with your personal information today. So you can grab a copy of your birth chart over on my website there, or you can grab a copy of your birth chart from a website called ASTRO-charts. Let me just place that one in the chat. There you go. Okay. So those two links should be in the chat. You're going to be able to get a copy of your birth chart from there. Okay. You're going to need that in order to make sense of what we're about to get into today. So be sure you take the time to get that, get a pen and paper, something to write with, and not notes on a digital device. You're going to want to write it down on pen and paper, specifically because you're going to see some symbols that are not available on your computer or mobile device. And I want you to be able to capture those symbols, because the symbols are going to be important to what we do next if you're coming with me into the deeper journey about this. All right. So get a pen and paper, get your chart. Don't worry if you need to go away and then come back. Feel free to go out and then come back, grab your chart. I'll be here. I've got a few more minutes before we start, but go ahead and get your chart now. And the last thing I need you guys to bring to the table today is an open mind. It's really likely that you've heard me say or heard other people say some of what I'm going to share with you today before. And it's also 100% likely you're going to hear some new stuff. Now, there is going to be the part of your brain when it hears the stuff you've already heard. That part of your brain is going to say, oh, I've tried that before. That doesn't work. The inner skeptic's job is to keep us safe by looking out for things that may cause us pain and telling us, oh, don't go in that direction. We need that part of us. And moving into our up levels isn't safe. It requires risk. It requires a willingness to try new things for ourselves or things we've tried before in new ways. So you're going to need to be prepared to do new things and assess where your inner skeptic is keeping you too safe. Because as I'm going to reveal in a moment, seeking safety of what we think we know is antithetical to timeline jumping. You cannot hold what you think you know and step into something new simultaneously. It's not possible. The brain can hold like one thought at a time. The mouth can express one truth at a time. So I shared with the private list that the frequency of May is choice. That's the word for the month of May. I got that word a couple weeks ago when I was kind of meditating. And it's interesting because my mentor, for those of you who are familiar, I've talked about her on this channel. Her name is Yielded Vessel. She's got her own YouTube channel. I strongly recommend you go check her out. She's on another level, y'all, another level. But it's funny, just after the word choice came in for me, I think the word she said for May that she had gotten was transition, transformation specifically. And she shared that with all of us yesterday. And so I was like, that is so crazy that I got choice, she got transformation, but the two things are linked and related. And it's not just May. It moves forward from here because we're in a season of second chances and power due to the movement of Pluto squaring the nodal axis. And I want to just show that to you guys now, because this is going to be thematically something that we're working with for the remainder of 2023 as we foster some timeline jumps. So let me just pull that full moon in Scorpio chart back out for you. Now, here is the nodal axis. We've got the south node there in Scorpio preparing to move its way into Aries. We've got the north node there in Taurus. Sorry, south node moving into Libra, north node in Taurus. I'll just draw circles around those so you can see those with some clarity. Here's the south node, all of our completions. Here's the north node, all of our timeline jumping. Wherever the nodes go, that's when we move into something new. And right now we're at a transition point because this north node is about to leave Taurus and move into Aries. And when we have those transition points, we move into a new chapter. We move into a new season. And this is going to happen in the next 60 days. Secondly, because and those of you who kicked it with me in North Node Mastery, you guys already know, because we talked about this, I believe in class 4, that when there is a planet at a 90-degree angle to the nodal axis, as we have now, when there's a planet there, we get second chances. And right now we have Pluto at a 90-degree angle to the nodal axis, and it will be at a 90-degree angle for the remainder of this year because Pluto moves so slow. And thank God it moves slow because it's so transformational. If Pluto moves fast, we'd all be like in straitjackets and a puddle of tears. It would be too much. So this opportunity to shift into this new timeline runs with us through December. But here's the thing, and I talked about this with my North Node Mastery students, when we've got a planetary body squaring the nodal axis and it's doing a retrograde, which Pluto is. It's in retrograde right now, and it's going to retrograde this year some. It'll retrograde more next year, but next year won't be the timeline jump. It's this year. When you've got a planet squaring the nodal axis, what you have is a season of choices. You have a season of second chances. You've got a season that allows you to move. You have to move. You get the opportunity to go into the new, but the only way you can access that is by making the choice to do so. You have to say yes. You have to say yes with your body. You have to say yes with your mind. You have to say yes with your mouth. And this Plutonian energy here is opening up this fork in the road for all of us. It's giving us all this opportunity to move into something very new. And there will be overlap between what we want and can absolutely have and what has existed before now. The two things, and I talked about this, if you're on my private list, you saw me send you an email about this. And I think I mentioned it in a community post on the channel. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe because that way you can see the community posts in your feed. But I talked about this, I likened this to propping up two different timelines with our life force, because all of it originates from within us. So the old is right there in our face, tethered to our life force until we get rid of it, dissolve it. The new is also presenting, same time, because it's also inside of our life force. The only way to get off one timeline and onto another is to make the choice to do so. And that's a big deal, because in order to do that at this time, we got to confront all things Pluto related. And Pluto specifically deals with power and fear. Its manifestation, vibration, and frequency comes through the confrontation and the wrestling with power and with our relationship to fear. So, big deal. 2023 is a big deal year. What's exciting about this is there is every possibility and opportunity, like I said, to get on a new timeline and then stay there to make the things we desire more real than they have ever been. That's the exciting piece about this. Let me just do the new share. There we go. My brain can like hold one thing at a time, for real, for real. So funny. Can't be in the old and the new. I can do one thing at a time. What's fun about this is that we have the chance to call the new things out of the ether and place them into the world in a way that's deeply sustainable. No blinking in and out, no on and off, no getting taken away or sabotaged like things may have been in the past. Specifically because Pluto deals with like permanent endings, permanent completions, like new beginnings that can't be undone. That's Pluto. It deals with the permanency of a thing. So once the choices get made as we step into this and the remainder of the year, a lot of acceleration comes online, especially as the planet Jupiter moves closer to Uranus, which we'll talk about next year. As those two come closer together, that's quantum energy. That's like throwing a heap of fertilizer on top of everything we're planting in 2023. It's like we planted it, we watered it, we kept the weeds out of it all 2023, and then boom, in 2024, it's all kinds of like crops that have sprouted up. It's new. We see the return, we see the yield on what we've planted in 2024. And it moves like lightning with Jupiter and Uranus coming together, because Jupiter is expansion and Uranus is new. When those two come together, and they don't do it very often. When they come together, it's quantum energy. And so if we've been clear and congruent, those two words are going to be key. A, clear, B, congruent. Things are going to speed up, and life has the potential to look and feel radically different than it does today. And this brings us to what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to cover three things today. We're going to cover some basics for how you can manifest the things you want in your chart. So hopefully you've had a chance to get a copy of your chart, because that's what we're going to get into. You're going to need it for this class. If you don't have one, I think my moderators have the link. They'll drop it there for you. That's what we're going to cover. That's the first thing we're going to talk about today. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about today is this. Now, no doubt you've likely heard and tried at least two manifestation techniques before now. If you have, type it in the chat, the techniques you've heard of, the things you've tried, or the things people have mentioned. Type it in the chat, the things that you've heard of in terms of manifestation. Now, since 2006, when the movie The Secret took the world by storm, the conversation about manifestation has expanded so much, it's now mainstream enough. You hear successful CEOs, suburban grandmas, professional athletes talk about it. Whether they talk about it positively or negatively, the conversation is everywhere. And so the second thing I'm going to talk about today are the top 3 blocks to manifestation. Several of you, when I asked you what you're excited to learn about today, said that you wanted to know about the blocks to manifestation. I'm going to give them to you. And these are the things that I most commonly see people struggle with when it comes to what they're trying to create. And these are the things that even if you know your personal manifestation technique, this is actually going to stop you from being able to use that effectively. And there's actually one thing we're going to talk about in between. I'm going to assess if we have time, but we're also going to talk about the planet Earth, the space rock we all travel on. We're going to talk about Earth's vibe, its frequency, and its relationship to manifestation, because Earth was created in a very particular way. And if you're a student of astrology or new to astrology, you've probably heard a lot about plenty of other planets. You've heard about Venus, Mars, Jupiter, the sun. The one planet that is conspicuous in its omission from planetary conversation is Earth. It's like it doesn't exist, but yet we live on it. How can it be omitted from the conversation? Earth has a vibration, Earth has a frequency that is especially important to manifestation. And I'm going to teach you how to find that in your chart. And once you have found that in your chart, I'm going to teach you what you can do with it. All right. And then the last thing, that just assuming we have time, and I think we do, we're going to get through the first part of this stuff really quick. If you've got your notebook and your pen, we're going to move pretty fast from here. The last thing we're going to talk about is the blocks to manifestation that I most commonly see people struggle with and what to do with them. Who's excited to hear about Earth? I'm like really excited to talk about it. That's the last thing we're going to talk about. Right there, I put it in the chat for you. Because one of these 3 things is like planting a seed in toxic soil. It can't even germinate. It can't grow even a little bit. You know, sometimes you like put something, in soil and it's like, oh, it grew, but not a lot. The soil wasn't very good. Sometimes you can put something in a soil and it won't grow at all. And this is one of the blocks. I'm going to talk to you about that, because you can't even get a partial manifestation if this is one of your blocks. And when we're done here today, I want you to know exactly what you need to do to overcome it. Now, I wish that these 2 hours were going to be enough for me to tell you everything I know about astrology and manifestation, because like I said, 2023 is a year of do-overs, second chances, and reclaiming missed opportunities. We need everything we can get to make sure we are fully on new timelines and not setting ourselves up to repeat while the window to make that choice is open. 2023 is a huge fork in the road here. And that feeling of watching the old stuff present itself and surface while the timeline to new is open and you're seeing some of the new experiences right before your eyes. That feeling that's been coming up since Mercury went retrograde, where it's like both and, like one foot in one world, one in another world, is a large part of the way the next chapter is going to go of 2023. The remainder of this year will, for those of us who are slower, will have one foot in both worlds for most of the year. For those of us who move a lot faster, we'll have 2 feet in one world in the next 30 days. And we'll be focused completely on the new. I wish that I could personally equip you with everything that you need to not mistake the old repeating at this time for the old repeating, because at this time it's not repeating. What's actually happening is a double checking that you're really ready to let it go. And there will be those that they're just going to miss it. And you are already seeing that. They're like mired in conversations about pain and disappointment with people, letdowns with work and with business. They're mired in depression. They're mired in bitterness. Oh, that person's the same. Nothing's changed. The boss hasn't changed. My man hasn't changed. My girl hasn't changed. My kid's still the same. They're still doing the same nonsense. My parents are still doing the things they've always done. Situation's the same. And in feeling and naming that over and over and over again with their mind and their mouth, what's happening is that they're re-solidifying their old timeline as their new one. And I want something better for you. And I believe if you're here, you want something better for you too. So before we're done today, I'm going to give you a way to access everything else in my brain about this so that you're completely armed for the rest of this year to manifest and solidify your new in the face of the old so it can crumble and move out of your life force once and for all. So, are you ready to get the basics of your personal manifestation blueprint now? If so, type yes in the chat because we're going to dive in right now. Hopefully, you've already got a copy of your natal chart. I've kind of, chit-chatted y'all up for the first half hour here to make sure everyone had a chance to get a copy of your chart. Hopefully, you've done so. My mods will have been linking that in the chat for you. So you found a way to do that over at kmoonastro.com/birth chart or astro-charts.com. You can do either one. All right. So let me bring an example chart up for us. Where are my example charts? Today, I'm going to give you the example chart. The first example chart we're going to look at together. Share screen. New chart. There we go. We are going to be looking at the first example today is the chart of one Mr. Former President Barack Obama. We are going to be looking at his chart first. Former President of the United States, Barack Obama. Now, in your chart, what you're going to see, if you've never really looked at a chart before, I'm going to break down some of the pieces of it before we get into too much more. You're going to see that the chart is divided into 12 houses. So there's 12 slices of pie here. We call those houses. If you got your chart from astro-charts.com, you'll see the numbers right here on the inside. You'll see like a 1 here, then you'll see a 2, then you'll see a 3. And notice that the movement of energy around the astrological wheel is sequential, going counterclockwise. And so 1 starts over here in what we call the 9 o'clock position. This is the beginning. This is the first, what we call the first house. Okay. And so in your chart that you received, you're going to see that here. And I'm going to take questions at the end, but you should be seeing that there. Okay. Now, each house represents a different area of life. And with all 12 houses, we have 100% of the different areas of our life fully covered. There's either groups of people or circumstances that are covered by all 12 areas of life. So for example, house number 1 here deals specifically with your personality and who you are and your I amness, your God-given, this is who I am, this is how I roll, this is just what it is, straight no chaser, this is me. That's house number 1, okay? House number 2 here deals with how you value yourself. It is self-worth, it is self-respect, it is self-esteem. And whenever there's a problem with investing in ourselves, loving ourselves, we can always look to house number 2 to understand why. Now, house number 3 is the first house that introduces a group of people. House number 3 specifically deals with our mind and our mouth. It's consciousness. House number 3 deals with the language we speak, the words we say. It deals with our ability to learn as well. Anytime we have learning challenges, we can look to house number 3 to understand why that might be and what can be done about them. But it specifically deals with mindset. So it's everything you're capable of consciously thinking. That's house number 3, as well as short distance travel. And then the group of people affiliated with house number 3 are what we call siblings, cousins, and neighbors. These groups of people are the people that I call soul family. Soul family are different than friends. Soul family are the kind of people that you don't have to talk to every single day or all the time in order to get value and connecting. You can go years and then pick up right where you left off. Soul family sometimes isn't always the people you get along with. Soul family sometimes is people that challenge you and push you into your higher levels. Okay. So that's siblings, cousins, and neighbors, house number 3. Then house number 4 specifically deals with family of origin. It's the parents, it's the ethnicity, it's the culture, it's the nationality that you come from. It's the people who originally gave you an identity. It's all of them. And it's also home, whether you live in an apartment or in a tent or a yurt, or you live in a house that you own. 4th house deals with the place and the people that we call home. Okay. And finally, we get to the 5th house. The 5th house is where the party is at. This is what this class is all about. House number 5. House number 5 specifically deals with manifestation and creation. This is the house we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to get you the personal information about for your manifestation technique. So house number 5 is what we call the house of creativity. The house of creativity here is where we have all things that we can conceive. That includes ideas, that includes projects, that includes children. That also includes anything we want to pull out of the ether and put into the world. You want to build a table? The process of creating it, house number 5. You want to build a business? Creatorship comes through house number 5. You want to build a career in food entertainment? The process of creating it jumps off at house number 5. House number 5 is also the beginning of our relationship houses. It deals with flirting and romance. You want to create art. That's also house number 5. All right. Some of you are going to notice in your chart, you got a lot of planets in house 5. Some of you are going to notice you have none in house 5. What you're going to see in a minute is that the number of planets and which ones they are isn't consequential. It is not consequential to your ability to manifest, because you have a house number 5 means you can manifest. And that's the point I want to get across to you. Your house number 5 tells you, it has all the keys that you need for what you can create and how to personally create it. Now, what I want you to focus on, can you all see your house number 5? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Y'all got, okay. Y'all seeing some stuff. Y'all seeing some stuff. Good. Good. Now what I want you to do is ignore the planets there for now. What I want you to focus on is what's happening here in this section on the edge. On the edge, you're going to see a sign name at the edge of your house. If you used the birth chart creator from my chart, from my website, or astro-charts.com, you're going to see a sign name. Now, if you're using a different way to create a birth chart and you don't see a sign name, that's okay. I'm going to show y'all some symbols in a minute. This is why in the beginning I said get a pen and paper. Don't try to take notes digitally, because you're going to copy down symbols and you're going to copy down words. So if you didn't get the piece of paper, get it now, because you're going to see some sign names here. Now, what I want you to do, recall that I just said that the way the chart works is it moves counterclockwise in this direction. What you're going to do is you're going to copy down the very first name of the first sign that you see here at the beginning part of the house. So you'll see here in Barack Obama's chart, you're going to see that there's two signs. There's a yellow one and a blue one. Your fifth house may have 3 signs. It may have 2 signs. It may have 1 sign. Just copy down the first name and the symbol that goes with it if there's a symbol there. Copy down the first name listed at the cusp of your fifth house. So you're going to, some of y'all have 2. Ignore the 2. Copy down the first one. Once you've written it down for yourself, I want you to type it in the chat. What is the first sign on the edge, what we call the cusp of the fifth house? Okay. The first sign. I don't know. All of y'all may have 2, but in the chat, type out the 1. The first one. Okay, so Morgan the World is the first. Morgan the Void is the first one I saw. She's got a Virgo first sign on the fifth house. Earth Labs has a Capricorn as the first sign to the fifth house. Good. Okay, y'all got it. Good. Y'all are getting it. The very first sign, that's the one we want to pay attention to. Yes. Okay, y'all are letting me know you get it. Whew. Gotta build this. Gotta build this. You guys are doing great. Awesome. So you got the first sign. Now, I talk about this in Star School 101, which I'm planning to reopen again in the fall, God willing. God help me. But in Star School 101, I talk about that it is the sign, the first sign on the cusp of a house, and that's what you guys just identified. What is the first sign at the entry point to the house? We call that in astrology the ruling sign of the house. And so what you guys just typed in the chat is the sign that rules your fifth house. And every house, every area of life has a sign that's a ruler, and that's the sign that's the ruling sign that dictates exactly how you're supposed to get performance from that house. It dictates what you need to do, how you need to behave, and what you need to generate in order to get that house to give you its best. Now, again, I repeat, look, because you have a fifth house of creativity, of creatorship, of manifestation, you have the ability to create, manifest anything you want. But it's through honoring the sign on the edge of that house that tells you how to do it post haste, toot sweet, immediately, call it in right now, own it like it's yours. Okay, so who would like to know what your sign on the cusp of the house means and how you are supposed to manifest? Who would like to know that? Are you guys ready to get into that? You guys ready to get into what it all means? You guys are so sweet, hitting that heart button. I love that. Okay. Good. So we're going to get into this. Now in Barack Obama's chart, for example, somebody asked that, we've got Gemini here. So you may not see a sign name written. You may see a symbol. Just write down the symbol. I'm going to go through the symbols with you guys in a minute. We're going to ignore, for the purposes of this workshop, the second sign or the third sign in the fifth house. Okay. We're just going to focus on the first one, because the first one, the entry point, the jump off point, that's the creation point. The beginning point is the creation point. In order to get the creation, you got to honor the opening. And that's in Barack Obama's chart, Gemini. Okay. Now, what's fun about this is you guys are going to start to see it really make sense. I'm going to do a couple of examples, and then we're going to go through the way this all looks in your chart. Gemini has a planetary ruler. And the Gemini energy is all about communication. Communication, 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 communication. And one of the things that people noticed first about Barack Obama when he, started out as a senator was that the way that he spoke commanded attention. When Barack Obama opened his mouth, you couldn't help but to listen, because the way he strung together thoughts and words were always compelling. And Gemini is the sign that governs communication. So if Barack Obama wants to create something, he has to speak it out loud first. And we saw that it was like through his campaign speeches as he ran for president, through the things that he said, he created an entire nation of people who were invested in seeing the vision that he wanted to create. They were invested in seeing that vision come to life through his words. That's how powerful honoring the sign on the cusp of the fifth house is. Not only can you create stuff for yourself, but you can create stuff for other people by honoring the sign on the cusp of the fifth house. So his fifth house cusp is Gemini. In order for him to create something, he has to speak it. I'm going to get to, so those of you who have the Gemini fifth house cusp, you've already got your keys. Let's do another example. Let me do another example here. And we're going to get into the full kit and caboodle for everyone. Here's another example. Some of you, especially those of you who are stateside, you have heard of the American football star named Tom Brady. Any of you have heard of him? Let me find Mr. Tom Brady's chart. Oh, here you are, Tom Brady. I found you. There we go. Let's pull Tom Brady's chart out. Okay. So on Tom Brady's chart, we're going to count out to house number 5. So house 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. And again, we have 2 signs on the cusp of Tom Brady's, on the edge of Tom Brady's fifth house. We are going to ignore the second sign. We're going to look at the first one, because how we get into the fifth house of creativity, how we pull anything out of it, is by honoring the beginning point of it, which is Aquarius. That's what that symbol is right there, the wavy lines. That's the sign of Aquarius. And this is by honoring the energy of Aquarius. This is in fact how Tom Brady creates things that he wants to experience in this world. Now, in American football, one of the things Tom Brady is most known for is having one of the longest careers that anyone who's in the sport has ever had. His longevity is like legendary, because he never had to retire due to injury or fatigue or body breakdown. That wasn't, kind of his thing. He's well into his 40s and he's still on the field, giving guys in their 20s a run for their money. And so to play on a team with someone like him it's truly the kind of thing that it's special. Now look here, we've got the Aquarius fifth house. Aquarius represents the new, the next, the evolutionary, the different. And in recent years, the American footballer Tom Brady has put out a book that specifically talks about his new, his next, his quantum leap forward dietary practices that have provided his body the longevity that we're seeing him reap the benefit of. There's nothing he wanted to do more than play football. I mean, it's kind of all over the news that him and his supermodel wife got divorced because he couldn't keep himself away from the field. It's where his heart was. It's where he loved to be. And so in order to sustain that, he had to honor Aquarius. And the Aquarian energy talks about doing things differently than what anyone else has done. And Tom Brady keeps a very different dietary regime and dietary practice than what anyone else in the game has done. He published a whole book about it. The second thing that Aquarius represents is collectives, peoples, teams. And so one of the things that Tom Brady is also known for is looking out for the good of the entire team, being able to really look at people and really assess, okay, this is your strength, that's your strength, everybody in their right place. Here's the strategy for all of us to perform together. And so with Aquarius on the cusp of his fifth house, he's seen a legendary, an iconic football career, American football career. Okay. So we'll take one more example and then we'll go through all 12 signs. So if you haven't gotten your pen and paper yet, last chance, last chance. You want to get that now because I'm going to write, you're going to want to write down what your particular signage is. Okay, this is Tom Brady. Good. Now we're going to do the last one, the last example. This last example is Walt Disney. Okay. And make sure that this is seen on the screen. It says I'm sharing it, but okay, yeah, there you guys go. You guys got it. Okay, cool. So you guys have all heard of Mr. Walt Disney, Disneyland, Disney World, Mickey and Minnie Mouse, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what's interesting here about Walt Disney is, and this is a more advanced example, and this is why, we're only going to go through the basics today, but I am going to give you a way to step into the advanced understanding of this if you decide you want to go there with me at the end of today's live and free workshop. I'm going to give you a way to come into the advanced stuff. But here's the thing about Walt Disney. So got house 1, house 2, 3, 4, and then the house of creatorship, house 5. Now, again, we see a lot of Aquarius energy here. Here's those squiggly lines again. The majority of the house is this yellow, but this is how specific you have to be with manifestation, right? The cusp of the house, the very entryway to the house is this. It's our friend here, Capricorn. It's that symbol. And you only have each sign has 30 degrees. Well, his fifth house begins at the 28th degree. So it's only 2 degrees of Capricorn before it changes into Aquarius. And your chart may look like this too, where your fifth house starts with a sliver of one sign and only to be filled with the other sign. Do not ignore the first sign. The first sign is the gateway. You have to honor the first sign. And so with that first sign being Capricorn in his chart, what we have here is someone who is meant to create in Capricornian ways. Capricorn is all about structure. It's about tradition. It is about things having to do with order and organization. It's about kind of systems, if you will. And one of the things we really saw Walt Disney create and the way he created, if we think about kind of tradition, the beginnings of the way what he shared were stories that had already been written, already been told in many ways. And these stories then became iconized, they became kind of shown and told through the Disney lens, and then they became mythology for the world once they came in through their new lens. Now, notice these are many of them were stories that had already been written in many ways. We get the beginning of tradition, and then we get the new. And you saw here the way the Disney brothers really did this was they honored the first sign, then the second sign. So we'll get into the second sign some in the advanced class if you're joining me for that after this. But for now, we want to just acknowledge the fact that it was tradition that got things off the ground. It was telling stories already been told in many ways. Now, here's the more advanced piece that we're really going to talk about later on. I want to give this for those of you who are further along in your astrological studies. The ruling planet of Capricorn is Saturn. This is Saturn right here sitting in house 4. Saturn sits in the sign or the house that deals with family, the family of origin. And we know that the Disney business, the original Disney business, was a family business. It was started by 2 brothers, Roy and Walt, and it became what we know today as the Walt Disney Company, a huge media conglomerate. However, it started as a family business. The 2 brothers were co-founders, and they continued to run it and then passed it on to their children. Okay. And so the success of the manifestation for Walt Disney had to come through the family. And that's by understanding that the ruler of Capricorn, which is the ruling sign of the 5th house, lived in the 4th house of family. And so the ruling planet of your 5th house matters. Where it sits matters, because those are going to be the people who are going to be able to help you most with your manifestation. That's more advanced. We'll get into that another time. But for now, if you can just identify the sign on the edge of the house, you're going to be able to nail getting your manifestations to begin to come forward. All right. So now I'm going to go through each sign. You guys ready for that? You guys ready to hear about your sign? Those are the examples. Now you understand how they work. Who's finding this interesting so far? Who's like, okay, dang, wow. There it is. Who gets it? Are you guys seeing this? Do you get it? Do you see it? You guys finding this interesting? Let me hear it in the chat if you get it and if you see it and you're finding it interesting. Yes. Oh, I love the hearts. I love the party hearts. You guys are so fun. I love that new feature on YouTube. Okay, yeah. Okay. You're getting it. That's okay. Havila, we're going to continue to talk about this. The last part, who farted, lost her. Okay, lost him. That's okay. Don't worry about the last part. As for the more people who are already familiar with astrology. Okay, very interesting, right? Some of you get it. 1 or 2 of you are struggling. That's okay. It's gonna get clearer as we continue to go. Okay. Awesome. Good. Okay, you guys see it. Yes, revelation, Denise says. Way cool, Maggie says. Awesome. Perfect explanations. Ailash, thank you. So glad you guys got it. Yay. Awesome. Go ahead and give the video a thumbs up if you can, because that will help the content circulate if you guys are loving this so far. And now we're going to break this down further. We're going to go one by one for each particular sign, and I'm going to cover your sign. Okay. Very good. Gives me the full picture. Yes, Jen, it does. Malene says everything makes sense. This is great because it digs further into what you told me a couple of weeks ago in our session. Yes, Jen. Very good. Okay. So all you need to do is have a copy of your chart. Like I said, you can get it from astro-charts.com. And we're going to go through sign by sign. And I'm just, for those of you who like really need it spelled out, because my chart looks a little different from astro-charts or from the birth chart creator on my website. I'm going to pull an example here. I'm going to pull up a sample chart from that birth chart creator so you can see it. Okay. So if you're on my site, let's quickly get into this. My name is Jane Doe. So real quick, I'm just going to make up a chart. I was born in something that starts with a J. San Jose, California. Perfect. My date of birth is, since we're in the J vein, we're going to go with January. We're going to go with 1st. And let's just pretend me as Jane Doe was born in 1987. Since we're sticking with ones, let's just say I was born at 1:11 p.m. Great. Now let's create the chart. Boom. Now here's an example of a chart that if you pulled it from my site, your chart would look something like this. Okay. And you're going to see house 1, house 2, house 3, house 4, house 5 is the one we want to pay attention to. This is the entry edge to house number 5 right here. And that entry edge lands in Leo. Okay. And that's the place you're looking for. The entry point to your house number 5, it begins in Leo. If this is the chart that you pulled, I recommended that you use this chart because I think it's pretty easy. The symbols are kind of all spelled out. The names are all spelled out. Just wanted to give you some examples of some famous people so that you could kind of see the way in which it plays out with so much accuracy. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So there you go. Jane Doe's 5th house cusp or entry begins in Leo. And that's the example you can use to find your way in your own chart. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. If you have the Aries, we're going to go sign by sign with the how to manifest using each sign's 5th house. So not if you are an Aries sun, but if your 5th house entry point is governed by the sign of Aries. If your 5th house entry point is governed by the sign of Aries, Aries represents new beginnings. It represents initiations, progressive forward movement, self-startings and entrepreneurship, independence, and a sense of self-clarity and self-certainty. Aries manifests through taking action. And this is where you want to take notes. So now what we have here is the symbol of Aries. You want to write that down. You're going to want to take some notes on the things that I'm sharing with you. Aries manifests through taking action, behaviors, initiating new things, starting new things, trying new things, jumping off the ledge before it's necessarily the parachute is built. Aries says, I'm jumping, I'll build the parachute on the way down. Aries understands the energy of now. Do it and do it now. The more you can honor the physicality of Aries and the momentum of Aries, the easier it's going to be for you to manifest what you want. Okay. So if you've got the Aries 5th house, let's hear it in the chat. You can raise your hand. I'm an Aries 5th house. You want to create things through moving through the jumping in now energy. You see it, you do it. You think it, you do it. Make no hesitation. Plan it as you go. Aries jumps in with immediacy. Okay. For the advanced students, Mars is the ruling planet of Aries. We'll get into what all that means in the part 2 of this class if you're going to join me for that. Let's talk to the Taurus people. So now we're not talking to the Taurus sun. I don't want to know about your Taurus Venus or your Taurus Pluto, just your 5th house cusp. If you've got the 5th house covered by the sign of Taurus, let's hear it in the chat. Okay. Taurus, and this is my 5th house. Taurus is the sign that deals with value, self-esteem, money, wealth, beauty, sensuality, and pleasure. Taurus specifically deals with flow, ease, growth, fertility. It also deals with stability, continuity, enjoyment. It deals with watering things, nurturing things. So if you've got a Taurus 5th house, the way you are meant to manifest, take these notes down. You're meant to manifest by loving and enjoying what you have as it is now, while you begin to focus on what's going to be enjoyable and pleasurable about what you want. Notice that nowhere in there is focusing on blocks, especially if you're a Taurus. You get new by focusing on the new if you've got the Taurus 5th house. Your attention is fully on what feels good. And you make that the sum total of your attention and focus. And you keep going from what feels good to what feels good to what feels better while you're creating your new. And that's how the Taurus fifth house, not the Taurus sun, the Taurus fifth house creates. And there's the symbol for Taurus right there. If you're working with a chart that doesn't have the name, it just has a symbol. That's the Taurus symbol. And this is the ruling planet Venus. For those of you who are more advanced, you want to look at that, you can. Okay, now let's move on. We're going to talk about Gemini. All my Taurus people, let's hear it in the chat for creating pleasure and enjoyment. Have you guys been doing that? Scroll back, Kyra. I need to keep moving forward. If you need something, you guys need to get your notes ready. Get your notes ready. Feel free to pause, scroll back, and then come back, okay? Gemini. All my Gemini people, if you got the Gemini fifth house, get ready to take your notes. The Gemini fifth house here, this is the symbol that governs Gemini. So if you're dealing with a chart that doesn't have names, it just has symbols. The Gemini fifth house deals with communication, short distance travel, siblings, cousins, and neighbors, soul family. It's very conversational. It's got messenger energy and curiosity, these pieces right here. Now, if you remember, we were talking about Barack Obama, he's got the Gemini fifth house just now. With the Gemini fifth house, what you're going to want to do is use words and communication to create what you want. So you're going to speak it out loud. This part is very important for Gemini. You can't just write it down. You also have to say it if you've got the Gemini fifth house. You need to have the words come out of your mouth and into the atmosphere. Whether you're speaking it to somebody else or you're in your home by yourself, you need to say out loud that which you're wanting to create. And then you got to say it to anybody who's going to listen. By speaking it out loud, you gather the co-creative forces to facilitate your manifestation. Okay. So scroll back and listen if you need to listen to it again. Words are there on the screen. Pause and take notes if you need to. Like I said, this part's going to go fast. Hopefully you've got your note-taking mechanism ready. Okay. We've also got Mercury as the ruler of the fifth house. For those of you who are more advanced students of astrology, you'll know what to do with that. Okay. Now, that's Gemini. Who has the Gemini fifth house? Who's got that Gemini? Any Gemini fifth house people here? Yeah, even if it's only a couple of degrees, that's right, Hoke Literati. You want to focus on the first sign. That's right. That's right. Focus on that first sign. And Jen Cortez, I'll just pull that back out. There you go. Here's the fifth house, house number 5. This is the entry point to the fifth house because the wheel moves counterclockwise in this direction. The energy flows in this direction. The sign that's right here. This is the sign that you want to pay attention to. The sign that governs the entry point to your fifth house. Okay. We're going to move on now. And now we're going to have a conversation about the next sign after Gemini. We're going to talk about Cancer. Again, if you're joining us and you've participated in Star School, you will have seen this in your workbook. This was all part of your Star School workbook. The sign of Cancer here, there's the symbol for Cancer. It looks like 2 fish kind of swimming together, or the 6 and the 9 together. The sign of Cancer deals with emotional integrity and fulfillment, home, houses, and roots, family, culture, and ethnicity of origin, and mothers. So if you want to, and the big key here is the emotions for Cancer. If you want to have something in the world of, and you've got the Cancer fifth house, you got the Cancer fifth house. what you have going on here is that you need to stand in emotional congruency and alignment with how it's going to feel to have what you want. Now, many of you have heard of the manifestation technique. You got to feel it in order to have it. That's only partially true. The Gemini's got to speak it, the Gemini fifth house, and the Aries fifth house has to act on it, right? But the Cancer fifth house has to know what it's going to feel like. The Taurus fifth house just has to feel good, but the Cancer fifth house has to know what it's going to feel like in order to have the thing and to be in the feeling of having it right now. So emotional integrity, write these words down: emotional alignment, emotional congruency. If you've got the Cancer fifth house, these things are a big piece of the way you're going to create. So anything you want, you've got to feel like you've already got it. That's not going to work for a Capricorn fifth house. That will work for a Cancer fifth house, which is why sometimes that technique of feel it until you've got it only works some of the time. That's only part of the way this works. So the Cancer fifth house has to manifest through the emotions, through feeling good, through feeling like they've already got the thing. Emotionally, they cannot be over here in heartbreak trying to also manifest love. That will not work for a Cancer. You're going to have to deal with the grief, deal with the heartbreak, and then from that place, find your way into what it might feel like to feel in love again. And if all you can start with is I'm in love with this nail polish color, live in that, soak in that, bask in that. That's what's going to make it possible for you to manifest the next thing that you love, and then the next thing that you love until it snowballs. Okay. But the Cancer people have to honor the emotions, and they have to live in emotional congruency, emotional truth. The ruling planet of the moon, for those of you who are more advanced and paying attention to that, the ruling planet of Cancer is the moon, for those of you more advanced and paying attention to that. Okay. It's not about repressing the emotion. It's about dealing with the ones that you don't want constructively, and then beginning to turn your attention to focus on the ones that you do want. Okay. All right. Leo fifth house people. Who are my Leo fifth house people? Where are y'all at in the chat? Let me hear from you guys. That Leo fifth house, I think our Jane Doe here has the Leo fifth house that we were just looking at. There's her fifth house, the entry point into the fifth house cusp there. Here's Leo, entry point. Okay, and this sample chart that we have, this is just an example chart, random dates that I put in. But if Leo is the cusp of your fifth house, where are you at, my people? You want to take some notes on this. If Leo is the cusp of your fifth house, this is about sovereignty, power, authority, and healthy ego. This is about putting your own oxygen mask on first. Okay. MW's got the Leo fifth house. Purnima's daughter does. Melissa has the Leo fifth house. Okay, awesome. With the Leo fifth house, this is the fifth sign of the zodiac, and it represents confidence. It represents creativity. It represents really kind of taking care of yourself as the king, knowing that if you're taken care of as the king or the queen of your kingdom, so too will your people be cared for. If you've got the Leo fifth house, the way you're meant to create is the opposite of what we just talked about with Tom Brady, where Tom Brady looks out for everyone and everything else. He looks out for the team, right? That's what we talked about there with him. That's the opposite energy. That's Aquarius. With Leo, you need to honor that your responsibility is yourself. What you have to take care of and deal with first isn't everyone else. It's you. How can a mom who is starving herself have the energy to get up and work and go make money to provide food for her kids, right? That mom has to nourish herself first so that she can then be nourishing to other people. And so with the Leonine energy, anything you want to create, right? You're going to have to honor what's your vision and what do you need to get out of it? And who are you going to be in it? And what's the truth of it that you want? Don't tailor it, don't edit it to change it for anyone else. It really has, it's not a group project with Leo. It is yours and yours alone. And so there has to be that ownership with Leo that I'm taking this on. It is absolutely mine. I'm taking full responsibility, full accountability for this, both the beginning, the middle, the ending, and the results. And I'm standing in my full power to create this and my authority to create it. This is my thing. If you happen to like it and you want to ride along, great. If you don't, all good. You got your own fifth house. Get out my way. I'm creating. I'm a Leo. I'm a Leo fifth house. That's the vibe and the energy of Leo. Now, for those of you who are more advanced students, ruling planet of Leo is the sun. Okay. So the Leo fifth house is all about owning that power. No apologies from Leo ever. It's about being centered in yourself on that throne and letting life bring to you and say, nope, you go over here. This is your area. No, you go over there. This is my area, my domain, and I'm creating this. Okay. So the Leonine energy creates through power, authority, and sovereignty. Let's talk about the Virgos. Virgo, fifth house. This is a fun one. I really love the Virgo fifth house. The Virgo fifth house is an interesting one. So fifth house Virgos, where are y'all at? You may see a symbol that looks like this. And again, we're only focusing on the beginning part of the fifth house, that entry point. We're not focusing on the second or the third sign, just the entry point sign. Who has the Virgo fifth house here? Great. Now in the Virgo fifth house, we've got service, dedication, discernment. We've got timing and order focus. We've got healing, health, and physical well-being. We've got the relationship of mentors and mentees, masters and disciples, teachers and students. If Virgo is your fifth house cusp, the way that you're meant to create is through paying attention to the details, having precise and rigid clarity about what is and is not your vision. The way you're meant to create, if you have the Virgo fifth house, is by putting things in sequential order and deciding what's part of the vision and what's not. Decisions are a huge focus for the Virgo energy. It cannot be everything everywhere all at once. This is not about, if you're a Virgo, going with the flow and just allowing it to come to you, which is another manifestation technique, that will not work for you. You cannot afford to go with the flow. You have to order the flow. Put it in order, put it in sequence. Make decisions about what the flow is going to be. Okay. The second thing about the Virgo fifth house, if you are a Virgo fifth house, the way you're meant to cultivate and create has to do with being of service to other people. So if in fact what you want to do is you want to build this big business, you have big dreams for the way it's going to look and how much money you're going to make, that business better be of service to other people, because without that, it'll only get so far. There has to be a very clear relationship for the Virgo fifth house person between what it is they want and how it's going to serve other people. Now notice that's the exact opposite thing of Leo. Leo needs to be clear about how it's serving itself. Virgo is one of the signs that needs to, in order for things to really unlock flow, to get the co-creative support of the universe, Virgo has to be of service to other people. There has to be a dedication to bringing things forward for others. If you've got the Virgo fifth house, it's one of the ways you can use to manifest. Okay. And even if it's something small, like I want to manifest, a marriage partner, think about, okay, how is that marriage going to be of service and light to the world? Right? Not to say that a marriage partnership is small. These days, it's actually a really big deal, but you get the idea. Okay. If you've got that Virgo fifth house, you got to be of service to other people. Ruling planets of Virgo. If you're one of the more advanced students and you're checking out where the ruling planet sits, we've got Mercury and we've got the moon, ancient ruler and modern ruler. And those are the symbols for them if you want to look at those in the chart. All right. Stay tuned, you guys, because after we do these signs, I'm going to talk about the planet Earth. I think we have enough time for that. And we're going to talk about where and how to find Earth in your chart, because it is through the planet Earth that you have special endowment and special creatorship ability. And I want you to be able to walk away with that today so that you know what you have special ability to create. All right. We're halfway through. We're at Libra now. If you've got the Libra fifth house, this is your moment to take the notes. Libras are group project people. They're designed to create things in partnership. So if Libra is the entry point of your fifth house, getting a partner, a collaborative partner, will help you tremendously. Sharing with other people and then bringing them along for the journey, finding people who want to create with you. Group projects, Libra all day, every day, twice on Sundays. That's you. You also have to be focused on balance, justice, equity, fairness. Negotiations, the law, beauty, and fashion are other things that are represented by Libra. Here's the sign for Libra. If you've got one of those charts that doesn't have a sign, doesn't have words, it has signs. The way you're meant to create, if you've got the sign of Libra on the fifth house, honors these things. It not only honors partnership, but it honors fairness. Whatever you're trying to create, whatever it is you want, has to be fair, just, and equitable to everyone else that it may impact. You want to buy a new house? You want to get a new car? You're going to have to do it sell the old one and create the new in a way that is fair, just, and equitable. No getting over on people, no being completely selfish and self-centered, no trying to just, take it all and other people will figure themselves out because they're supposed to be looking out for themselves anyway. That will always come back to bite a Libra in the butt, a Libra fifth house in the butt. Okay. Ruling planet for Libra is Venus. And we see the symbol for Venus here. She's pretty familiar to everyone. Okay. There's got to be a lot of fairness. The other thing about that Libra balance piece is that in the way you go about creating, the way Aries, the opposite energy is like gung ho, like jump in head first. Libra approaches its creations in a more balanced way. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. We take it one step at a time. We go step by step in the creation. Yes, we're creating this, and simultaneously we are not diving in headlong. We're not getting immersed in it. We're going, we're treating ourselves fairly as we go. We're going in a very balanced manner. All right. So that's a fun thing about Libra. Let's get into Scorpio. The Scorpio fifth house, you have special creatorship ability. Now, you guys are the ones that succeed by the technique called creating a void. Not everyone, especially the Taurus fifth house people, they don't succeed by creating a void, but the Scorpio fifth house people will. Scorpio is all about transformation, alchemy, change. Some of you have heard of sex magic and being able to use sexual energy for creatorship, second chakra energy for creatorship. That will work exceptionally well for the Scorpio and for the Taurus fifth house. We get death and the resurrection process here. So death, ending, afterlife, integration, and then new beginning, resurrection. Scorpio deals with money owed or given by others, secrets, deals with the cocoon. So if you have the Scorpio fifth house, that technique called creating the void, meaning getting rid of, killing off, ending anything that is not what you want, will clear the decks because the universe abhors a vacuum. It will clear the decks so that what you want can, boom, fill that spot. The minute a Scorpio fifth house puts away what it doesn't want is the minute something that it wants can flow in. The minute. And so the challenge for Scorpio is to let go of the old as one of the fixed signs. The challenge is to release what it doesn't want. If you are a Scorpio fifth house and you've got a whole bunch of stuff you don't want, that's also a challenge for Scorpio because Scorpio has a high tolerance level for discomfort and pain. The minute you let it go is the minute the better thing comes in and solidifies. So honoring that you got to create that cocoon, you got to empty out, you got to clear out that garage of all this junk you don't want anymore so that you can have the new car come in. That's how you do it if you're a Scorpio. You kill off what you don't want so that what you do want can flow right in. You can also, again, if you are familiar with said practices, do the sex magic, do the physical intimacy pieces around creatorship to call that manifestation in. Ruling planets of Scorpio are Pluto and Mars. Those are the two symbols. If you're an advanced student and you're looking for that in the chart, you can do that. Okay. Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun. Let's talk about Sagittarius. Sagittarius's energy is all about truth. It's all about clarity. It's all about decided outcomes. And specifically, Sagittarius governs our belief systems in many ways. So higher level spiritual knowledge or religion in some ways. We get truth and wisdom. We get understanding and faith. We get optimism. That's a key word for Sagittarius. If a Sagittarius wants to create something, the thing that will always upset their manifestation is negative self-talk, negative self-deprecating self-talk, or deprecation about what they're trying to create, even in jest, even in their own moments of doubt, because Sagittarius is one of our communication signs. You cannot, if you have the Sagittarius fifth house, afford to say, I don't know if this is going to work. This won't work. Or to go, yeah, I'll never get there. That'll never be me. Maybe other people, or even in your moments of deep sadness, you got to hold that optimism. Like, it doesn't feel so good now, but I know it will turn because that's the nature of life. If you've got the Sagittarius fifth house, you've got to hold on to the truth of your power to create. You got to hold on to the truth of the fact that you are able to create. That's part of the way you were built. And you got to hold on to that optimism and the belief systems that allow you to create. Scorpio doesn't have to believe any particular thing in order to get what it wants. Not at all. Libra, beliefs, not required. Libra just needs good partners and to play fair. Scorpio just needs to be able to get rid of what it doesn't want and to know what it does want. Once you got that, you're good. Sagittarius actually has to really guard its mind far more particularly than any of the other signs, because the minute you undermine your thoughts, especially with words, the Sagittarius energy sabotages its own creation. So with the Sagittarius fifth house, you've got to really lean into that optimism and lean into truth and freedom. Your project, whatever it is, needs to be able to be an occupation of truth, an occupation of freedom, okay? And an occupation of your own authenticity, Really important that whatever you're trying to manifest is a reflection of your inner truth, not a conglomeration of what the parents thought you should be and the ex needed you to be so that they wouldn't have broken up with you. If you want to manifest that ex back, you better be a good version of yourself. That's how Sagittarius manifests, that Sagittarius fifth house. You got to become real authentic. Okay. Not who they want you to be, but who you want to be. Okay, amazing. We've got 3 more left, and then we're going to talk about the planet Earth and your special endowment to create. I'm going to help you find Earth in your chart, so stick around. We're going to do Capricorn now. Capricorn manifests through hard work, work ethic, and discipline. It is known about Walt Disney that some of the work ethic that he put his team and laborers through it's kind of legendary. Some people might have called it abusive. But the Capricorn fifth house manifests things through industriousness, through really focusing on tradition and precedence. If you're focused on, okay, so what I want to create is the ability to have a new car. Or let's just say I want to, I don't know, what kind of things do people want to manifest? Somebody put something they want to manifest in the chat. Who wants to manifest? Just put something in the chat and I'll give a Capricorn example. Yes, that Billy Goat attitude, Alexandra, that's exactly it. What's an example of something somebody wants to manifest? Anything. Put anything in the chat. No ideas? Okay, that's all right. Nobody has to manifest anything. If you want, I have to control my, yes, the vent. A new home, Flower says. Okay, Coke Glitterati wants a house too. Oh, a lot of y'all want houses. Okay, good. Very good. All right, so you want to get a house. If you want to manifest a house, you may have heard of certain new programs out here that allow first-time home owners to get certain kind of new money or access to certain things in order if they just participate in this new program. If you've got a Capricorn fifth house, my strong recommendation would be to do your research, because with the Capricorn fifth house, it's going to be very critical that there's something about that quote new program that is based in tradition and precedents that we already have seen work really well for people. It's already based on something that we know that's in existence already, that has in some way, shape, or form had a tried and true mechanism. So it's not something random like ride zebras till 3 p.m. and we'll give you a house. No, it's something that we've seen before. Like you pay into, paying off we give you this loan, then you pay it off over this amount of time, and, you rent to own it or something like that, right? So it's something that we've seen before. Capricorn governs tradition. What's the precedence for this? Or it could be about hard work. It could be about focus. It doesn't have to be hard, painful hard. It just has to be, the follow through has to be there. The discipline has to be there. The work ethic has to be there in order for the manifestation to come through for a Capricorn fifth house. There are a lot of manifestation techniques out here that talk about, just visualize it and it'll come. Just feel good and it'll come. Visualization, that is not for the Capricorn fifth house. We're going to get to the sign that does visualization very well. Speak about it, that's not Capricorn. Write it down, nope, not Capricorn. All of that's going to be a waste of time for you if you have a Capricorn fifth house. It's got to be some action, and the action has to be built with some follow through. There's got to be follow through, there's got to be discipline. All right. Let's talk about our friends Aquarius. We saw 2 Aquarius fifth houses in the examples that we did prior to starting this section. Tom Brady was one of them. The fifth house deals with, if you've got Aquarius, deals with freedom, revolution and evolution, servant leadership, the people's leader. Quantum leaps and collective consciousness. Aquarius deals with teams. For the Aquarius fifth house, your manifestation is indeed a group project. Joining groups of people who are trying to manifest and create similar things are all, they're going to help you significantly. Being able to work with people who legitimately have the chutzpah, the wherewithal, the ability to do what you're doing, who have already done it, who are out in front of you. You're kind of, riding your bicycle with them, leaning into their drag. That is Aquarius energy, going into the new, the next. You want to create something, make sure it's different than anything you've ever created before. Okay, or different than anything anyone else has seen before. Other things that people are wanting to create here, true love. Empress Oracle of Light says, Denise Trejolie Benoit wants to create a soul recovery center. I love that. Alex Vidal says they want to create a cafe to serve their beautiful food in, and Celine Jacquincy wants to create their own business. Listen, if anyone has the Aquarius fifth house, there has to be a way in which the thing that you're creating also serves people and yourself both at the same time, not one or the other. It's got to serve you too. And it also has to deliver up freedom and evolution for yourself and for others. So if, let's just say the cafe example, if Alex had an Aquarius fifth house, I don't know that Alex does, but let's just say, for example, Alex had the Aquarius fifth house. That Aquarius fifth house would need for that cafe to be built to serve the beautiful food. How is it going to create liberation and freedom for you? You're going to have to answer that question. How is it new, different than any other cafes that currently exist? What's the twist to this? You're going to create using Aquarius methods. There's going to be something about it that's a cut above, something different, unique and new. Look for the uniqueness if Aquarius is your fifth house. Ruling planets of Aquarius are Uranus, that's its symbol, and Saturn. That's its symbol for those of you who are the advanced students, okay? Last one, and then we're going to get into Earth. I'm excited to share Earth. We're going to talk about Pisces. The Pisces fifth house specifically deals with the unseen world of the spirit, illusions, television, film, music, song, sound, healing, psychic abilities. This is the group of people, the Pisces fifth house people. Holla, because you are the ones who can visualize. You got the Pisces fifth house, visualization, painting the picture, imagining it as if it were. That's what's going to facilitate your ability to have the manifestation come into fruition. Also, if you can't visualize, I know some of you have that thing where you can't always see things when you close your eyes. Music, song, and sound will call things out of the ether and into the world. So saturating your ear gates with music or songs or sounds that are in alignment with what it is that you want to create. So another example too is like Gemini, Virgo, Pisces here. Sound can be very important to any Mercury related sign, but also Pisces. Affirmations can work really well if you've got Pisces on that fifth house cusp, Gemini or Virgo on that fifth house cusp. Affirmations are going to work beautifully for you guys because you're hearing what it is you're trying to create. You're saturating your subconscious and pressing it with the sound of what it is that you want. And even if you don't, maybe you're not into song or singing about things, I make up songs all the time because the ruler of my fifth house is in house 3 in Pisces. So if I'm like wanting to create something, sometimes when I'm just like confronted by the old, doing old things, I'll just sing a song to myself. I will literally on the spot make up a song about what I'm trying to create, right? I've got songs, random songs that repeat for my dynamic with my family. I've got songs about my friendships. I've got songs about my businesses. I've got songs that I like literally, I don't know how to play any instruments, but sound, I make the song up and then I sing it to myself, generates and impresses my subconscious mind with that. Certainly healing stuff, all things related to water, of course. But seeing it too, if you can visualize it, if you've got the Pisces fifth house, you're going to be golden. So yeah, very good stuff. You need the K Moon soundtrack, Mel Clark. You make up your own soundtrack. If you got the Pisces fifth house, you got to make up songs that are specific to you. I sing songs to people that I love, even when I'm not around them. I sing songs to them in spirit to create the kind of relationship that I want with them while I'm visualizing it. Works like magic. I think I even had a song about a new home at one point. So, okay, so there's that. You guys are going to be able to re-listen to this anytime you want. It's going to stay here for free on YouTube. So if you want to go back to anything that I've said, you absolutely can. There's way more to this than what I just shared, but this is the beginning of how you use the sign on your fifth house cusp to manifest. Now, there's deeper information to this, utilizing this planet here and certain other planets in your chart. But here's the deal, right? And we're going to specifically cover one planet that is the most important one I could tell you about because you're not going to find the information anywhere else. And that's the planet Earth. We're going to get into that in one moment. And then I'm going to get into some questions. But here's the deal. The reality of this is that there can be challenges in utilizing your method of manifestation. If you, A, you don't know what it is, and B, we just unlocked that, but C, you've got some internal blocks to creating it. Here are the three internal blocks that I like consistently on a regular basis. See, you guys are going to want to write this down. Let me see here. Let me just pull this up. Because these are the blocks that will mess your manifestation up no matter what sign you have on the cusp of your fifth house. And I want to prepare you to be able to overcome those. Who has an aha moment out of what we just talked about? You get an aha moment? What's your aha moment? Type it in the chat for me. I'm really curious. The light bulbs went off while we were talking just now. What's your insight? All right. So here are the three blocks. There's just three of them, and they're consistently across the board. Even if you didn't know this stuff, these three blocks will eat your manifestation up before you've even begun. And you've probably heard of these blocks before, but I'm going to tell you why they will eat your manifestation up. Okay. Now, the first block, okay, yeah. Ross says, got the insight is I do act now. So many ahas who farted. Gotta watch my mouth is the aha. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Kylie, you nailed it. The real deal is like you out here like teaching my lesson. It's no more blocks. That's really it. It's all coming together with the Leo fifth house. Very good. Struggling between two courses of action. This info just clarified the truer path. Good, Deborah Lynn. As a Pisces manifester, I feel strongly tied to my ability to visualize and use affirmations. I've been doing that for the cafe. Very good. Flower says struggled with structure most of their life. Okay, yeah. You guys are starting to get the aha moments. Yeah, yeah. Earth Labs is seeing the manifestations that are the actions that preceded the manifestations. Very good. Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Okay, so you guys are getting the aha moments. Here are the three things that will eat your manifestation alive. I want you to avoid these. Um, the first one is, and this one's pretty relatively simple. It's kind of obvious based on the conversation we just had. It's not submitting yourself to the work that needs to get done. So again, like the Gemini thing, remember we are talking about Barack Obama? For him to be able to manifest something, he has to speak it out loud. Gemini also governs short distance travels. If Barack Obama hadn't been willing to basically get in a little van and travel across the United States, short trip to speak to people out loud, he probably would not have become president, not with the landslide victory that he had. We have to be willing to submit to the work that the fifth house dictates. It doesn't go any other way. If you are a Scorpio fifth house, for example, and you are like, but I don't want to let go of my ex. I still want to be married to them. I just want my twin flame to come. Why don't they come? And you refuse to create the void, you better believe that you're gonna stay married to the ex and the twin flame's not coming. We have to be willing to submit to the work that our fifth house demands of us. You're not willing to do the work, the manifestation is not willing to land. And that's just the truth of that. And what that's about is called congruence. In other words, and this brings me to the second thing that will block your manifestation. It's non-congruence, it's double-mindedness. And that's the shadow energy of some of the signs that we talked about. But really thinking that you can act in manner A and still get manifestation Z is going to mess your manifestation up every single time. You've got to be single-minded, single-focused. You want to create a business, but at the same time, you're completely unwilling to learn about marketing. You're unwilling to learn about sales. You're unwilling to learn about products and services and how to place what you want to do online. How's that going to work? Like, and that's just basics, right? It's like common sense. But you see how when you're double-minded about a thing, it cannot come into fruition because your life force energy is part of what creates a thing. It comes through your life force. And we're going to talk about that in a minute when we talk about Earth. But getting into congruence is so mandatory. And again, for some of your signs, it's like congruence with language. For others, it's congruence with behavior. For others, it's congruence with who you're interacting with and who you're getting to help. For some of you, it's congruence with your doggone self. Like it's impossible to be able to pull something out of the ether with that Leo fifth house if in 1 minute you're like, I want to live in the country. And in the next minute, you're like buying tickets to your next city vacation. It's like, okay, well, which is it? The universe will just stand back and say, I can't tell what they want. So I will just wait until they get clear. And that's how you get stagnation. That's how we get inertia, is double-mindedness. So remember, the first block is not submitting to the work. The second block is double-mindedness, having that duality in your brain. I want this and I want that, and I don't want to give either one up. And they're completely contradictory. I want to stay safe, but I want to have the thing that's going to require me to take all the risks. Won't work. Will not work. Okay. And then the last block, and this is the one that is the most challenging I have found for people. It is the most difficult. It is the one that, especially if I have certainly seen it for, anyone who's ever grown up, like second generation, first generation immigrant in a new country or a new place. I've seen this one get in the way of people who've identified in any way as marginalized. So you could be, a member of GLBT community, you could be a person of color, you could be a woman here on earth, right? You could have grown up disenfranchised, not having money. And I think just about now I've covered about every human being on the planet growing up without money or being part of a marginalized group in one way, shape, or form, differently abled. When you is especially challenging for these groups, but the thing that I have found gets in the way of a manifestation is this, and it is an inability to be clear, to name with clarity precisely what you want. Most people live in the world of vagaries. Oh, I kind of want this thing. And what's even more challenging and more inaccessible is living in the world of defining what you want in opposition, meaning I say to you, and I had this experience this week with a client, I said to her, okay, well, she was like trying to get me to help her understand how she could manifest love. How can I manifest love? And I said, well, this and this and this. You got the fifth house that's like this. You've got you've got the seventh house of romantic partnership. It's like that. Here's how you manifest love. Here's the timing for it. And every single time I would share something, her doubt would creep in and she would say, well, are you sure? Because this, and this, and I tried that before. And well, I gave up on my twin, so I know that'll never happen. And I just want new love. Can new love really come in for me? And I said, oh boy, we got all the problems here. Number one, new love is very vague. You're gonna have to be specific. Do you want a relationship? Do you want the grocer to adore you at this little cafe where you go buy flowers every week? You have to be specific. There was no clarity there. Number two, she was double minded. If she was really done with her twin, she would not have brought it up. If she was done, she wouldn't have even felt the need to mention it. She would have just been like, this is what I want. I want to be married. I want to have this house and this place. And this is what I'm focused on, Kamo. And how do I get it? She was vague. She was double minded in that moment. And then in addition to that, when I finally got around to saying to her, okay, so we're going to have to define this. What's the truth of what it is that you want? Because and I explained to her, I said, you're double minded here. She's like, how am I double minded? I said, you're double minded because you're bringing up your past. The past isn't even here. You're saying to me, the person's not in your life. You're not even in communication. I'm asking you, what do you want? And the first thing out of your mouth is, well, I don't want him. Really? Okay, so why are you bringing it up then? Maybe there's something here. So we dug into it together. And I said to her, look, if you want him, you can have him. If you want that love, you can have it. And her response was, well, but he did this and he did that, and he doesn't communicate with me and he won't share with me how he feels. And I think he feels this way, but he won't say it. He withholds. And I said, okay, I got it. But I need to ask you again, what do you want? She said, well, I don't want anything that's like that again. I don't want to repeat. I said, let me interrupt you for your own sake and your own benefit. I'm asking you repeatedly, what is it that you want? And this is now the third time I've asked you. And what you're giving back to me is a list of things that you don't want and vagueness about what you do want. I need to ask you a fourth time. Defining in the positive with clarity, what is it that you want? At that point, she got extremely quiet. And I started to hear her breathing, like tears were flowing down her face. And she said, what I really want is I want that man, and I want that man to be able to tell me that he loves me. I need to hear it. I want him to be able to talk to me and open up to me. And I said, okay, mommy, you can have that. You can absolutely have that. But here's the thing. You see how in this moment, in order to get what you wanted, I had to ask you 3 different times to open yourself up for the words to come out of your mouth, for you to even admit it to you. How is it possible if you, being a divine, powerful creator incarnate, how is it possible for you to get that anywhere else if you can't even manifest it here with me today in a private moment with a person who's not judging you and who's never going to talk to you again? Unless, of course, you come back. And she said, whoa, I get it. I get it now. He's been a mirror of me the whole time. And I said, yes. So I said, okay, so what do you want? And she was able to name it with clarity in that moment. And it brought her to tears to be able to just admit it to herself, to be honest, clear, and congruent. And to own, and we had to talk about this, that she had to own the power in the fact that he was a mirror of her, and she had not yet changed what was happening on this side of the mirror so she could get a different manifestation on the opposite side. Y'all getting it? Y'all seeing it? Is anybody with me? Do y'all understand why and how this works? Y'all are starting to understand that there's nothing your counterpart, your job, your boss, your family is doing to you that isn't already being done inside of here, inside of the body you're sitting within. It's all a hologram. It's all manifesting from within here. So I say all of that to say that getting clear and removing the double-mindedness are the 2 things that you must do in order to be able to have your manifestation come to fruition. You've got to be able to admit it to yourself. You've got to have precision clarity. And then you've got to be willing to submit to the work and do the work required to get there. So we're going to talk about Earth because that's where your special endowment and manifestation powers are. We all have the ability when dealing with Earth specifically, because that's the planet, the rock we all travel on. And on this specific rock, the ability to manifest stuff is bigger and better and brighter than any other planet in our solar system. But and the Earth sits in your chart in a very specific location. Okay. In that sign is the thing that you have the power and the ability to manifest better than anything and have anything you want out of that sign and what it governs. So in a moment here, I'm going to show you how to find that in your chart. It's been hidden in the world of astrology, but I want you to know what that is so that you can actually access it. And before we get there, I want you to be able to have an experience like the one that my client had. I want you to be able to know and claim and own what you want. And those 3 blocks that I talked to you about, the one that's going to eat you up every single time is a lack of clarity. Not being clear about what you want. Number 1, there's 2 parts to this. Not being clear about what you want and not being clear about how you can get what you want. If you don't know how to get what you want, you're not going to be able to get there, number 1. And then number 2, you really can't get there if you can't name what it is that you want. So if you're ready to be able to name with some clarity what it is, what you want, and you want to go deeper with me into the how, because remember the last example we had with Walt Disney, that was always meant at its most successful to be a family business. It was always meant that he was supposed to work with family to get there. And we could see that based on where the ruler of the fifth house sat and the rest of the chart. And it's the rest of the chart that's going to teach you the specifics of your how. We got the basics today, but I want to give you the specifics. And that's through inviting you to join me in my new course called Manifestation Mastery. It's a workshop. It's going to be 4 hours. We're going to kick it together next Saturday. And in Manifestation Mastery on Saturday, May 13th, we start at 2 p.m. Eastern. You're going to have the ability to know, number one, who are the helpful people that are guaranteed to help you be the most successful at what it is you're trying to create. Number two, we're going to talk about the ruling planet of that fifth house and what else it is that you need to be able to do in order to get your manifestation to come to full fruition. And I think some of my moderators have the link for this page that I'm looking at here. So you guys can go ahead and put it in the chat. And then number three, we're going to talk more in depth about, let me get to that part of the thing. We're going to talk about the mechanics of how you can manifest the big three using your chart. Number one, how you manifest love. Number two, how you manifest money. And number three, how you manifest health. We're going to get to the big three in Manifestation Mastery. We talked about general manifestation today, but in Manifestation Mastery next Saturday, I'm going to give you the big three. It's all online. It's all recorded. And it's going to give you the keys to your manifestation kingdom so you can manifest more stuff all year round, anytime in your life. Okay. It's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 6 Greenwich Mean. It's a 4-hour workshop. Okay. You're going to need a copy of your chart. And if you've ever been stuck in the world of manifestation, meaning you've wanted to create these things, more love, more money, or better health, but you're like looping and looping and looping, and you got some stuff today, but you want to know the specifics so you never have to guess again, join me over there. If you've tried really hard, but some things like never manifest for you, like you've always tried to own a car, but something always happens, Manifestation Mastery will get you clear about why that is and what you need to do. If you've been really disappointed because you've got patterns that repeat and repeat and repeat, like my client, she constantly felt like the man just wouldn't express himself to her, but she couldn't even express herself to me, right? A non-judgmental third party that she had paid. Like, if there's ever a time to express yourself, it's when you paid the money to express yourself. She couldn't even do it. If you've got these patterns on loop, we're going to get to the bottom of resolving those in Manifestation Mastery. And if you've tried the techniques and the techniques are hit or miss, join me in Manifestation Mastery. We're going to get you clear about your specific process and the techniques required for your process to be good to go. Okay. Now, this is going to be good for a lot of people, but I want to tell you, number one, if you're the kind of person who's just like, nothing ever works, I'm not willing to learn it, astrology is too hard, okay, Moon, you don't teach good, don't join. Your mental block is going to stop you from getting something out of it. But if you are the kind of person who's like, okay, I've never like gotten into astrology before, but I'm willing to just dive in and figure this out, Aries fifth house, Aries season, Aries stellium. If you have that energy about you where you're like, I'm just going to figure this out, and you're ready to figure it out right now because you're done propping up the old with your life force. It's exhausting and it's supposed to be dying out this year anyway. Join me in Manifestation Mastery today, and you will find that next Saturday, this is going to be a turning point to your whole life. It's a beginner-friendly class. It's more intermediate, so it's helpful if you know some astrology, but what we started with today will get you there. And I've got some special bonuses that will help those of you who are brand new. It's 4 hours. There will be a Q&A session. I'm going to work with some real charts from some folks who've already registered. I'll be reaching out to you this coming week to let you know that it's you whose charts I'm going to work with. Early birds who've been on my list, kudos to you because you guys got the first bonus, and the content is yours for life. So if you can't attend live, or you need to be able to come in and go out, process some, come back, you can re-listen to this anytime you're ready. Okay. Manifestation Mastery is doors close next Friday because I need to give you time to get the right kind of chart before we start. So get your seat before Friday because we go on Saturday and Friday night the doors close. And lastly, it's 111 to participate. 111, that's it. 111 USD. And it's probably the cheapest thing you can get all of my attention and time for on my website. So definitely sign up if you are curious. I would absolutely love to have you there. Let's get into talking about Earth, shall we? And if you're not ready to sign up now, that's okay. You can sign up later on in the week. Totally cool. We're going to talk about the planet Earth now. Because there's some things going on with planets. I know many of you were focused on the planets when we first looked at your chart. The planets are not the key thing. The planets are actually secondary. The primary thing that you want to be able to focus on was and work with is the sign on the cusp of the house. This part is the part that if you get nothing else, if you don't come join me in Manifestation Mastery, if you just work with what I taught you today, I promise you, you will begin to get the benefit of your capacity for manifestation right now in your life. And you saw that through the examples. We didn't even get into the deeper stuff in the examples of Tom Brady, Walt Disney, Barack Obama. We didn't even get into the deeper stuff. We just worked with the basics and you saw how successful their lives have been. If you just work with the basics, you're going to be off to the races. You're going to be good to go. But if you're called to go much deeper, get way more specific, I promise you it will be a turning point in your life. Now, here we go with Walt Disney again. I want to talk to you guys about the planet Earth. And then we're going to get into Q&A. Here's the planet Earth. It's a symbol that looks like a circle with a cross on it, like that. Okay. Now you're not going to see that symbol on your chart. Most astrological software does not include it. You have to ask why that is. Now, there's a rabbit hole we could go down here. Like, why wouldn't they talk about Earth? That's so true. We've got all these other planets. We've got Pluto, we've got Neptune, we've got the sun, we've got Uranus, Mars, and Venus. All of them have a vibration and frequency. Why wouldn't we talk about the vibration and the frequency of Earth? Given that it's a planet too, it's also in our solar system. Why would nobody tell us about it? Doesn't it have a vibration and frequency too? Doesn't it give something to the other planets also? Well, in fact, it does. And the Earth in your natal chart represents where you have amplified divine creatorship capacity and story, or capacity to build and to create. Earth gives you, tells you where in your chart you have the ability to basically conjure anything you want, literally anything, based on the sign that it sits in and the house that it sits in. And Earth is kind of like your God power incarnate in your body. It's like, okay, in this area of life, I have the power of the divine right at my fingertips. Now, if you're a follower of the student of Jesus or of the way, you'll know that passage in scripture that talks about being created in God's image, created in the image of the divine. There is no aspect of you, if you were created in the creator's image, that doesn't have the creatorship ability already there. And the planet Earth, the vibration and frequency of the way it's been created is the capacity to turn things from mental to physical, thought to form, idea to reality. That's Earth's frequency. Earth's frequency is the frequency of movement into form. It's literally the one planet out of all the planets in our solar system that is uniquely and specifically about manifestation, creatorship. That's exciting because what that means is if we were living over here on, let's just say randomly, we were living on Mars, the frequency there would be all about ambition and drive. And all of us would be endowed with that ability. If we happen to be living on the planet Venus, the frequency would be all about receiving and receptivity and beauty. It would be all about magnetism. We don't live on Venus. If we happen to live on the moon, the frequency would be all about emotions and reflecting things. We don't live on the moon. If we lived on Mercury, the frequency, we'd all have an amplified ability to communicate. We don't live on Mercury. We live on the space rock that specifically deals with turning thoughts to form, ideas to reality. We live on the planet of manifestation as creator beings incarnate. You know how special that is? How magical that is in the entire solar system? This is a unique and special thing. And so now I'm going to tell you how to find Earth in your chart, because the sign that Earth sits in is the thing that you can specifically create. Now we're looking at Walt Disney's chart here. This sign up here is the sign where Earth sits in his chart. Notice it's directly opposite his sun. That's the sun. That circle, the sun is the circle with the dot in it. That's the sun in your natal chart. Walt Disney's Earth sits in the sign specifically that deals with storytelling. That's Gemini. It's communication out of the mouth. It specifically deals with telling story and revealing story through mythology, or revealing mythology that we can learn from, educate from lessons. It's all Gemini. And the minute he stepped into manifestation through story in his life, that was the first thing him and his brother did. They started to write stories. The minute he stepped into that, the momentum was created for everything else that could follow. Let's take a look at another example. Pretty magic, right? Let's see, Mr. Who are we going to look at next? Let's look at Mr. Tom Brady. Again, he's the American football star who's had one of the longest careers ever. Okay, Mr. Tom Brady. He's got the sun here in Leo. And he's got the Earth here in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius governs teams. It governs friendships. And it governs the quantum and the new and the next, the evolution. So here is Tom Brady doing this new thing with his body, with his diet. And now he's got like mythological longevity to his career as a football star by doing the quantum, the new, the next. He steps into that, and he stepped into it years ago. Years ago, he stepped into doing this new thing. But it's this new thing that then added on to his fame. And I believe as we see him, he recently decided to retire a second time. Then he came back and he decided to retire. So he's retiring a second time. I actually believe that this is what we are going to find that he becomes famous for. Some of the new thoughts around the way to care for teams and the body. I think we're going to see a lot of fame for him around that. Okay. Let's look at the example of the last example we talked about today was Mr. Barack Obama. And then I'm going to show you how to find Earth in your chart. So here is Barack Obama's chart. Ooh, this is a good one. This is going to be special for those of you who have Earth in this location. So we've got Sun here in house number 6. Then we have Earth directly opposite it over here. Now, some of you are already getting the gist of this. You're getting the vibe of this, the frequency of this. You're understanding, based on the 3 examples that I've shared, where you can find Earth in the chart. If you guys have an idea of where to find Earth in the chart, go ahead and drop it in the chat. If you're already cluing into the context clues here, drop it in the chat. If you already can see, oh, that's where Earth sits in my chart, put it in the chat for everyone else. Here for Barack Obama, we have Earth in the sign of Aquarius. Once again, Earth dealing with the sign of collectives, people, teams. And one of the things Barack Obama was well known for in the way that he became president was that his presidential campaign was directly focused on grassroots movements of collectives of people, town to town across the United States. It was the grassroots movement of collectives of people that got Barack Obama into office. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was political action campaign money all over that too, but nevertheless, I digress. It was truly the investment of groups of people, and that's what Aquarius represents, new ideas and groups of people that allowed there to be a groundswell of support for him. And through that, he was able to manifest exactly what he manifested, becoming president of the United States. Okay, let me see what you guys said in the chat about where to find Earth in the chart. Hocus pocus focus, nailed it. Opposite the sun. Yes, Mel C. Opposite the sun. That's exactly right. Flower and forgiveness. Mylan, yes, directly opposite the sun. That's it. So wherever your sun is, and we're going to go back for those of you who have been using astro charts. I'm sure a lot of you guys may have gotten your chart from astro charts from my website there. Let me pull up my astro charts. Come back, astro charts. All right, here's our Jane Doe. This is the example chart that we created. Now, in astro charts, like most pieces of software, they will not show you Earth. My software shows Earth. But most pieces of software will not show you Earth. The software that I use, I get into all of that inside Manifestation Mastery and how to get it for free, et cetera, et cetera. That's all inside the workshop for next weekend. So if you've enrolled, that's already there in your prerequisite material. But here is Jane Doe's sun right there. She happens to be a Capricorn sun. That would mean that Earth for Jane Doe is in the sign directly opposite Capricorn. And we see here that that sign is Cancer. Her Earth would sit inside of Cancer. And so she has special endowment, special ability to create things Cancerian related. Cancer, again, is related to families, emotional truth, emotional congruence, etc., etc., etc. So it's the sign directly opposite your sun. And to keep us from getting too lengthy here, because I do want to leave some time for Q&A, if you're like, but what does the sign opposite my sun mean? All you have to do is look for the sign opposite your sun and then rewind this recording. I went through all 12 signs and what they mean. And it's in the sign that Earth sits, and Earth is always the sign directly opposite your natal sun in your natal chart. I went through all 12 signs and I detailed what that means. You have ability to create in this lifetime. special capacity, special endowment, special gifting to create. And you can even be expansive. Everything that I wrote on the page and shared with you today, that's not everything it is. Cancer also governs families and motherhood. It governs, if you want to expand the construct of family into a wider understanding of like monad as well, you can. Home, right? Cancer Earth placements have special ability to create any and all things related to that. Okay. Now there's 5 other planets of manifestation. In addition, there are 5 total. So we talked about Earth today, but there's 4 other ones that are really, 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 really critical to be able to work with. So I'm not going to talk about those here because we don't have enough time. But just know that we live in such a benevolent universe, guys, such a special place. And we are so powerful in this special place that there is nothing, if you decide you want it, there's absolutely nothing that you cannot have. But you must be clear about the way you're meant to have it. And I gave you the basics of that today. You also must be clear about what you want. If you cannot have clarity, you cannot have what you want. You have to have both of those. And in Manifestation Mastery, I take care of for you, making sure you're 100% clear about your method. Your method will be crystal for you by the time we're done. Okay. Now, if you liked those pages from the workbook that you saw, the Star School 101 workbook, I did share some, you want to get those pages with, all the manifestation stuff. You want to be able to download this and study this. When you sign up for Manifestation Mastery, I'm adding this in as a bonus for the next 50 people who join. The first 50 spots are already sold out. We're in the second 50 spots. So everyone who's already joined gets the first bonus, which is the 5 planets of manifestation, that write up. Those are coming to you at the end of the class, the end of the workshop. But if you liked these pages that shared, okay, what's the sign and how does it work and what do I have to do? If you liked these pages, I'm going to give you these pages for the next 50 people who sign up. So you probably want to get those today because the first 50 spots sold out in 24 hours. The next 50 spots are probably going to sell out in 24 hours too. So if you like these pages, you want to be able to download them. I'm going to add some extra information to them about the manifestation pieces. You want that? I'm going to add it as a bonus. The next 50 spots and the first 50 spots will get this in addition to everything else. Okay. So go ahead and sign up now over at K-Moon Astro, or at I think my peeps put the course there. Thanks, Hope Glitterati, for putting the course. I really appreciate that. Okay. Now we talked about Earth and how to find Earth in a chart. Okay. And you can always, if you don't want that bonus or, it's just not right to participate right now, totally cool. You can always just rewind and of course, just take notes because I gave you the baseline and you saw with just the baseline how successful the people that we looked at in the examples were today. So we're going to stop here. And now I'm going to take questions about manifestation and the content that we spoke about today. Who has questions about today's content? Hey, Kristen, that's such a great question. Can you purchase it at a later date? Right now, it's available for purchase through this coming Friday. I do not have it on plan to offer it again this year. I might not. I don't know. Depends on how it goes and what I might need to do with it in order to make it even better for people. So maybe I'll offer it again. Maybe it'll be aligned. I'm specifically offering it right now, Kristen, because we are in a turning point season where the timeline to get to do something completely new and different is open. It is the old timeline and the new are both propped up through our life force. This is why there's this tug energy that can be a little exhausting. There's this frustration energy going on right now because there was all this momentum through April, and then May hit, Mercury went retrograde, and boom, it's like, okay, now wait a minute. I knew I dealt with this. Why is this still in my face? And it's specifically because we're in the season of revelation about what has to change, what we have to manifest our way out of in order to get to the new. So I'm offering this in alignment with the season. Now, last year, the spring workshop had to do with shadow work, and I dealt with core wounds, and that was the Chiron course workshop. I'm going to be honest, I haven't offered that live a second time. I've offered it, recording only access. So if you know you're the kind of person that needs to be there live, needs to be able to ask questions, wants to be able to make sure that you get what you need in order to really dive into this and take this toolbox home with you for the rest of your life, I recommend you get it now. Even if you can't participate live, you can put your questions in a special section of the website for the course, and I can answer the question, and then you can listen back when you are joining later, Kristen. So I don't recommend waiting because I tend to offer what's in season rather than go back and reoffer certain things. I may offer it later live if it's in season, but if it's not in season, I won't offer it. Okay. I manifested brunch via my wallet. Very nice event. Does the house of our earth placement have an influence? Empress of light, you bet it does, baby. And in the full workshop manifestation mastery that I'm doing next Saturday, we're going to talk about the house of the ruling planet of your fifth house. And so we saw there at the end, Walt Disney's example that the ruling planet was Saturn. And so we knew that it was going to be work ethic for him and tradition. But that ruling planet Saturn sat in the house of family. Let me pull Walt Disney's chart up again. Obama, Tom Brady, Walt Disney. There we go. Okay. So here's Saturn sitting down here in Walt Disney's chart in the family house, and it's the ruler of the house of creativity. For things to come to biggest and most successful, bringing family along with him was absolutely necessary to be at their most successful. And the same is going to be true of Earth. So we know he was telling stories. That's where Earth sits in the sign of storytelling. But the house where Earth sits in Walt Disney's chart here is the house of potential and the house of belief systems. It's the house that deals specifically with, when you put Gemini and the ninth house together, we're dealing with mythologies. And anyone who's ever really done research on the Disney stories, Cinderella, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, we know that these stories are pulled from mythologies that exist. And via telling stories aligned, stories, that's the Gemini part, aligned with mythologies, that's the ninth house, he was able to manifest the sum total of his success when he brought his family into it. So does the house make a difference? If you want things to be at their most successful, absolutely. If you just want to pull them out of form and into existence, or pull them out of thought and into existence, nah, you can manifest anything with just the basics. Like he could have manifested much of what he manifested just with the work ethic and discipline of the Capricorn fifth house alone. But for it to get to the level of legendary success that he's got, he had to incorporate these other pieces. It would not have gotten that far without it. So absolutely, it makes a difference. Great question. Great question. I love that question. Natasha asks, what if I have two signs in the house where Earth is? Again, I take it into consideration. The first one, the ruling. Natasha, take into consideration the sign that Earth is in. So in Walt Disney's chart, for example, we have Earth here in Gemini, right? And we know it because there's Gemini. You want to take into consideration the sign that Earth sits in. again, all it had to be for him was telling the stories, right? Gemini deals with storytelling. Let's take a look at astro charts to give an example that may look a little bit more like the charts you guys have been dealing with. Let me share the screen again. Okay, so in our Jane Doe example, we know that Jane Doe's sun sits in Capricorn, right? Mm-hmm. Here we go. Okay, so here's the sun. The sun sits in the sign of Capricorn. And we can see here, let me see if I can draw better, cleaner lines. That this is house 9 for Jane Doe. So the 9th house is here. The opposite sign is over here. This is the opposite house. So the opposite house, I'll just extend that. Opposite house. And we'll just extend this so we can see the totality of Jane Doe's Capricorn there. Okay, that 9th house. All right, because there's a lot of lines going all over the place here. So when you join Manifestation Mastery, I give you a way to get cleaner charts. This was just for today. There's charts that are going to be easier to read, and I walk you through in the prerequisite material how to get something that's going to be much easier to read and more like the ones that I have, okay, for free. They're the charts that you can get are for free. So over here, we can see that Jane Doe's 3rd house is mostly Cancer. And so let's see, her Earth sits directly opposite it over here in Cancer. Now, for some reason, we saw like over here, we see her house is Leo. We have Leo over here. Leo seems to cover, in the Jane Doe example, both, oops, let's get lines. Leo here seems to cover part of Jane Doe's 4th house and part of her 5th house, right? We've got 4th house, 5th house for Jane Doe, for Leo. What we want to pay attention to is if Leo is in house number 5 here and her Earth is in house number 5, we want to pay attention to, is that Earth in Leo or is that Earth in Virgo? Where Earth sits, you want to pay attention to the sign that Earth sits in. We'll deal with houses later, but for now, inside of this workshop, you're focused on the sign that it sits in. Great question. Let me see what else we have here. You guys are asking wonderful questions, and I hope you guys all join Manifestation Mastery. I want to see you there so that we can get into more detail together. Okay. With an Aries 5th house, you mentioned action and behavior. Could you talk about inspired action a bit? I am a deep feeler and visualizer naturally. Absolutely. And that may be because you have a lot of water energy as well, or perhaps Pisces energy. With that Aries energy, action orientation is really key. And so let me go back to that workbook page. And again, the next 50 people who sign up will be able to get access to these workbook pages. It will also be provided to the first 50 people who signed up, just as a way of saying thank you and making things a little easier in the course. Now, here we go. We've got new beginnings, self-starting. So this is about not waiting. Don't wait, take initiative. And so you may be a deep feeler and a deep thinker. And this is going to be challenging if, in fact, you have a lot of Virgo placements in your chart. But the trick is to not wait for the plan to be fully mapped in all detail. The trick is going to be to get a decent idea of the plan and then to just jump in. Okay. Taking action is key. One of the other things about Aries is that Aries is a very physical sign. So one of the things that you can do if you've got the Aries 5th house, especially if Aries extends into house number 6, is you can like get on the treadmill or go for a walk or a run and then just start thinking about repeating out loud, saying, just move your body some kind of way. I am powerful. I'm a CEO. I'm the creator of a global company that helps people fill in the blank. Or I'm a mom. I'm one of the best moms there is out here. Of course, a child would want to incarnate with me if motherhood's what you're trying to manifest. Or, I'm such an amazing wife. I give the best, I don't know, meatloaf. I do an incredible job being a good partner to my person if you're trying to manifest love, but doing that with your body, like moving your body while you're, visualizing or affirming or whatever it is your technique. Getting the body involved with the Aries piece will be really helpful. Okay. Carla, Charlie Yvonne asks, are Earth and part of fortune glyphs the same? No, they are not. Earth looks like this. It's upright cross. Part of fortune looks like this. It is more like an X, okay? Sensitive point versus planet, so make sure you catch the difference. Third eye Yari, if I want a new job, my fifth house is Scorpio ruler. How am I going to let go of my job to get a new one and pay the bills at the same time? That is a really good question, third eye Yari. I love that one. Let me see. That's a really good question. That's a more personal manifestation one. I would really have to look at your chart because Scorpio has two rulers. Let's get down here and show you that again. Scorpio has two rulers. It's got both Pluto and it's got Mars. And listen, what is your name, Carla? I highly recommend that you do not quit your job. I love this question because this is a perfect example of when you have to have more specifics, which is what we're getting into in manifestation mastery. You need to, with Pluto and with Mars, and wherever they're placed in your chart, what house they're in and what sign they're in, you don't necessarily have to quit the job, but you're going to have to let go of the house and the sign that Pluto and Mars are in as it pertains to your job. So let's just say, for example, you have, I don't know, Pluto in the third house, or Scorpio fifth house, and you've got, Pluto, let's say the third house. Again, that third house is about communication, short distance travel. It's about soul family and like kind of chit chats and all of that. If you've been doing a lot of socializing with your coworkers and they've really become soul family for you, one of the things you're probably going to have to let go of is all that social time. So that instead of utilizing that social time to chit chat and be in communication, y'all are doing brunches on the weekend, y'all are hanging out after work. That's your time when you're supposed to be finding a new job. And so you're going to have to, Pluto deals with endings. You're going to have to Pluto that third house social time in order to Scorpio fifth house call in that new job. You see how it gets more specific once you know the ruling planet, where it sits and what house it's in. And that's the kind of stuff I'm teaching in manifestation mastery. I'm going to drill down into those more specific levels. So hopefully that really helps. Taria Michelle says, focusing on movement has made such a difference in my manifestation techniques. Amen, Taria. I'm so happy to hear that. Really happy to hear that. Crystal M, will Earth conjunct Chiron have a negative effect? No. And Crystal, in any of the classes that I teach, you'll see that none of the planets, including Chiron, are negative. None of them. I just don't teach that way. I don't believe that God created this realm that way, this universe that way, that there are bad planets and bad things. And even one of the toughest energies, I just talked about it at the most recent lunar update, Eris, Eris, like she's that energy of being like angry and passive aggressive. Even she has divine purpose. All planets, all energies have divine purpose. Even Chiron. Chiron has shadow and Chiron has light. All planets in the shadow can be destructive. Even Venus, we talk about Venus being this love and money planet, but straight up in the shadow, Venus she's messy, she's clingy, she's manipulative in the shadow. That's not light. That's not love, right? And so all planets have light and shadow. They exist in their neutrality, and Chiron does too. So no, Chiron will not make things bad. Okay. Oh, Third Eye Ari, I'm so glad that you are joining the class. That's wonderful. And thank you so much, Kylie, Hope Glitterati, and the Vent. And so wonderful to have you here on this. And New Jersey Rock Girl Allison, thank you. I think Valkyrie I saw earlier, but I don't see her anymore. Allison says, I always thought manifestation was a one size fits all technique. So this is eye opening and exciting to learn how the fifth house is crucial to success. Yes, it really is. If Pluto is in the fifth, does that bring in the past that needs to be let go of? Not necessarily, because Pluto doesn't deal specifically with the past. Pluto deals with power. Okay. That's its neutral energy. And like I said, we get into the neutral energy of all of the planets inside of this workbook. And so I'm going to give you a copy of this if you're one of the next 50 people to register for Manifestation Mastery. You'll get to see the light side, the shadow side, and then the neutral side of every single planet. I've listed them out here for you, the neutral side of each planet, their light side and their shadow side. So Pluto's not necessarily bad, not necessarily good. None of them are. They're just there. They're just existent energies that we as creator being incarnate on the planet that deals with calling things out of ether and into form have the capacity to work with like tools. A hammer isn't necessarily a bad thing. A hammer can be a great thing when it's building houses. It can be an awful thing when it's breaking hands. Okay. All right. All good questions. Gratitude Healing Art shares my fifth house leads with Pisces, and there's a little bit of Aries at the end. I have Mars and Neptune exactly conjunct to the minute in Sag in the second house. So interesting. Yes. Taria Michelle, in cases where the most powerful way to manifest involves other people, how does one manifest those people? And I love that question because some of the houses, like we talked about, I think it was like Libra, fifth house, the Gemini fifth house. Who are the other fifth houses? Libra, Gemini, certainly Cancer, Virgo, people to serve, Libra, partnerships, Gemini, soul family, Cancer, regular family, like blood family. These all deal with Aquarius teams. These all deal with people. And so having people at your side, the kind of people mentioned at your side to assist you in manifesting will go a long way. If you can't find those people just yet, that's okay. Because remember, we talked about there being other aspects of each of those signs. Like with Libra, we talked about you may have the kind of business where you need a co-founder or you need a business partner. That's okay if you don't have it. You just need to start by really focusing on the balance piece, on the fairness piece, and beginning to create in a way that's balanced for your lifestyle. Not giving all to this and nothing to something else, create in a balanced way. We also want to create things that are fair, things that are beautiful as well. So if you've got something you're trying to create, you're thinking about how can I create this? Well, what's the most beautiful way it could be created, right? Maybe it's not, you're trying to build, you want to build like I don't know, you want to build an after school program. Well, you want to make it the most beautiful environment that you can. So start looking for facilities that are beautiful. Anything that's not beautiful, cross it off the list. I don't care if they're giving the space to you for free, just cross it off the list. You'll find that by really leaning into that, you occupy an energy that magnetizes the business partners to you. Okay. All right. Great questions. Great questions. I'm going to take like 2 more questions and then I'm going to head out. Okay. Hope you guys join Manifestation Mastery. Amber Kelly, can you talk about North Node versus Earth for purpose? Amber Kelly, I don't read either one of them for purpose in the way that I read. There's a lot of astrologers who will talk about the North Node as purpose. I do not. In my North Node Mastery class that I just finished teaching, I talk about the North Node as your lifelong lesson. It's what you incarnated to figure out how to integrate so that you can become an even better creator. Incarnate. Okay. Earth is specifically about creatorship, again, not purpose. Earth's energy is about manifestation. Okay. All right. Let me see if there's any other questions that I can answer here. It's a second question. Let me get to the second question. This will be our last one. You guys have asked such rich questions today. Loving it, loving it, loving it. If you're on your way out, thanks for staying. Definitely hit the like button. It goes a long way, helps the content circulate. See you next Saturday, Allison. I'm so grateful you joined. Jen Brown, I'm grateful you joined. I can't wait to hang out with you guys. It's going to be so good. Flower, what if the ruling planet of the 5th house is opposite the 5th house? Brilliant. I am so glad that you asked this because this is something we're going to get into next Saturday as well. That is one of the things that needs special attention because if the ruling planet of the 5th house, let me give you guys an example of what Flower is talking about. Let me find a chart. I think Barack Obama's was that way, was it? Let's see. Earth was opposite. Yeah, it's not his chart. Okay, but we can use this chart for the example. All right, so we're going to get in more in depth with this in the workshop next Saturday, but we see here that the 5th house sign is a Gemini sign for Barack Obama, right? And so we know that the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. She is asking, is there anything special that I need to be aware of? Let's just say that Mercury is out here in the exact opposite sign, in the exact opposite house. It's in the opposite. And so if you're an advanced student of astrology, you tend to know that the opposite sign is the sign that a planet governing the sign we're in discussion about is a place where that planet doesn't do as well. It can in some circumstances, but it doesn't always. And so the remedy for that, when you've got, so let's just say he had his Mercury out here. It's not, but let's just say he did. It's a good thing it wasn't, because I don't think he would have been as successful as he was if he had. If it was there, he would have had to find some other solutions in his chart. And thank goodness there are other planets that assist with manifestation. There's a total of 5 of them there, but it's fine because he didn't need that. But in this case, what you have to do is really focus in on the light side. So in that workbook that I'm sharing with the next 50 people who register, remember I was just now explaining that all signs have light and shadow. All planets have light and shadow. And so he would have had to have been meticulous about manifesting in the light and really focus on the light parts, not the neutral, not the shadow, but the light parts, and only accessing the light parts of that opposite sign. And that's how he would have worked with transmuting maybe Mercury not giving its best energy in the opposing sign. He would have had to focus on the light. So I'll just quickly reshare those pages. so you guys can see them. And of course, you can rewind because there's like so many words here on this page. My gosh, I don't expect you to be able to take it all down. And so you can also stop and pause and write if you need to. But in this guide, you'll see that every sign, light and shadow, and every planet has light and shadow. And I detail the light and shadow for every sign and every planet. And so if you have your ruler of the fifth house in the opposite sign, you want to focus specifically and exclusively on utilizing the light parts. Okay. And because there's no room for shadow. Now, there are some people, successes, there. Okay. Let me try again, mouth. Try again. Slow down, thoughts. Success is something that can happen for all of us, no matter what we're trying to create, right? Again, success in and of itself is neutral. We can take people who have been, monstrous to humans, to humanity, and who are legends in their monstrosity, and see that they manifested what they did through the shadow, right? They used all their manifestation power in the shadow and the dark side of the energy, and then they became quite successful at achieving abominations by being very good at manifestation in the shadow. You do not have to use all the stuff in the light. You do not have to be a good person to be able to manifest. You do not have to be the kind of person who is only creating good things on the planet. You could be creating horrific things and get very far in your atrocities if you are just creating, utilizing your own system. And this is why this information, I mean, we're a small community here, so I believe I'm really sharing this with people who can tolerate the amount of first of all, verbosity, but also light that I tend to share with people. And I think this is probably why in the world of astrology for aeons, what Earth represents has been hidden from humanity. Because you can literally create anything here on the planet Earth. We've seen it. We've seen the Adolf Hitlers. We've seen the other people who have created genocide and abuse of humanity and resources and animals and the planet. We've seen it. And they too, long as they're creating with their system, can be as successful as you can be. They don't have to be doing good things in order to create. But this is why more of us, those of us who hold light, those of us who want the planet to bend toward greater love, those of us who are standing in that humans need more love now, need more life and light right now, those of us who stand for that, we need to know this stuff now. We need this stuff today for the kind of businesses we're creating, the kind of impact we can have, the kind of leadership we're meant to take here on Earth, the kind of roles we're meant to play in guiding humanity toward a better place. We need this stuff today. We cannot afford to wait any longer. And so I share this to say, look, this power is accessible for anyone to have. A hammer can build a house or it can break a head. It's time for you to put this stuff in your own hands, you guys. It's time for you to have access to all of your creatorship ability so that you can stand in the light of what it is you're here to guide people toward. There's a special soul song and a special mission that's been embedded in the dreams of your heart inside of you. And more than anything, I want to be able to help you bring that out. And this is why I have created Manifestation Mastery. So I hope you guys join me there next Saturday. I want you guys to be able to have access to the full capacity of your manifestation abilities. Okay. Your full manifestation tool set and toolkit. I want you to know how to use it, when you can use it. I want you to be able to use it whenever you want, no matter what year it is, what season it is. And the stuff we talked about today, even if you can't afford to join, it's okay. The stuff we talked about today will help you get there. Okay. It'll kick you off. It'll get you in the direction you need to be. All right. But for those of you who are called to make that investment, I'm going to see you next Saturday and we're going to have a ball. And afterwards, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to create whatever it is you're here to make a difference with humanity, for humanity. I'm thrilled to be here with y'all. It was so much fun to do this. Thank you for all your likes, your subscribes, and your shares. Take what you need, take what resonates for you, leave the rest for the people who need the rest. And I'll see you all in the next lunar update. Take great care. Have a great Saturday or whatever day it is you're listening to this.